Live. Nice piece of meat. Woo! Who wants to watch me break a piece of rock? Why not, right? Why not? Why not watch me break rocks? There are worse things to watch, I am sure. I got this nice thin dacite spall. It's got a pretty straight section in here. This is pretty thin and a little curved, so I'm going to chip that off right now. And I'm going to go after the fat section on the bottom. See if I can thin that out a little bit. And then we'll start working the edges, see if we can get a knife or spear point out of this thing. Why not? Let's see. I don't need a very big tool right now. I'm just gonna break away the edge, short, real small flakes. I keep them small by keeping the stone at this angle and hitting down. That way the flakes don't have any propensity to travel. That way I can just sort of trim the edge. Just kind of get rid of this weird side first. Make it a bit more regular. Get rid of the curve bit. Let's see. It was curved up this way. Get rid of some of that by making these short flakes. Just using a small tool for a small piece. Sort of you want to keep your tools proportional to the size of the thing you're working on. Do the same on the other side. Get rid of the thinnest part of the edge because that won't last anyway. Might as well take it off. Kind of see what you're working with a little bit better. Let's see. Do a bit more. Welcome, folks. Hey, Lindsay. Hey, Surpass. Hey, this is dacite. Looks kind of like obsidian, but it's not as shiny. See how shiny the obsidian is? Dacite's black, but not quite as shiny. A little less brittle too. Lindsay, you're Lincoln? Is that your name? Lincoln? Practicing some flint knapping today. Surpass, you're Gabby. I will try to remember. A lot of people show up to these. Okay, Lincoln, Gabby, I'll try. I can't promise because the names come up fast and I'm doing 3 things at once. But welcome and thanks for tuning in. On the ancient art of flint knapping, which is the process of making stone tools, these are the way tools were made for all of human history. I picked this is a flake of dacite that I knocked off a larger piece a while ago, and it's just kind of nice and big and I thought it'd be a good place to start today. So right now, I'm chipping away at the edge because this side was kind of curved up and I want to be working with a nice flat piece, something like, my hand, something pretty flat. Give it a little taper and then I'll go after this thick part that's still on the bottom. But first, just a little bit more of this tapering. And to keep the flakes from being too long, I'm going to keep it up like this and tap down. If I have it like this, which you'll see a lot of later, the flakes will have a propensity to be longer. I don't want that yet. So I'm just sort of trimming the edge. And I'll keep that tipped up. And just take little tappy tap hits, little hits. Just to trim the edge, keep it controlled. make it a little smaller, a little closer to the final shape, so I'm not, you know, fighting with extra material that I don't really need. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more on the other side here, and then I'll hold it up for you again. I'm thinking about trying to figure out how to do a 2-camera setup. That way, maybe you could have a camera shot that's coming right like over my shoulder so you could see exactly what I'm seeing. And then maybe this view that you're seeing right now, you just get a little bit of it up in the corner or down in the corner or something. Okay, so I'm just trimming the edges to shape a little bit, just to make it easier to work with, get rid of any really, you know, odd parts that I just know aren't going to be part of the final thing. Now I'm going to work on this fat bit a little bit. This is known as a copper bopper. And I'm going to try and take some larger hits down here. Yeah, what I just did. It's pretty neat how this process works. All right, so I said I wanted to go after this thick area, right? So I hit here from the top, and that flake, right? I can never do this without my fingers getting in the way, right there. And you can see that perfect flake scar where that flake came from. There it is. Boom. So now I'll try to do one right next to it and maybe take out a spot right here or right here. And incidentally, the flakes that come off of these, super sharp. Crazy sharp. You can kind of see, if you look along the edges, you can kind of see how it's translucent. It's because it's super, super thin. That means it's super, super sharp. This will cut leather, no problem. To cut you, no problem. So that's why there's the glove on this hand. And cuts are very common in this practice. Very, very common. I get cut almost every time. I don't think I got last time. Wow, I should write that down somewhere. It's like a serious event. Actually, something else I do, I'm going to abrade with this abrasive stone. The reasons for that will become clear as time goes on. Critical step. Kind of chipped on me. I'll show you what, when a flake didn't go right, I'll show you what it looks like. Right there. You see that line? It's formed a step. It goes in, and then boop, it didn't feather out into a nice thin flake. It's because this edge wasn't strong enough. I needed to do more of that abrading to make it blunt. Oh, my stream's lagging? Huh. That's not good. I don't know what I can do about it. Yeah, maybe a cut glove, but I mean, this glove slices, but I hate wearing gloves. So even this is something that I really only do for the live stream, just because I don't want to be bleeding every time I join you folks. Yeah, but it's not, a cut glove wouldn't be a bad idea, really. I wonder what the lag's all about. Hi, Shagray. Shagray. How am I going to get into that? This bottom part is almost a degree angle, and those are hard to deal with. Hey, Wyatt, I think you've asked me that before. I don't for arrowheads. I think I might have told you that when I got out of college, I worked as an archaeologist. So I used to look back then. I mean, that was my job. But I don't really look these days. But I would understand why someone does look. It's fascinating. And when I'm anywhere When I'm outside anywhere where there might be artifacts on the, my eyes are glued on the ground. It's just an old habit. Always looking at the ground. It's gotten me in trouble. Because if you're looking at the ground, you can't be looking at anything else, and sometimes you really should be. It's you, and I asked you, hey Carol, I asked you, you asked me about that, and I said go to plowed fields, get permission, and walk over a field right after they've plowed it. Maybe that was someone else. I'm making stone tools, Chagray. So let me hold up something that's more finished. This is a very traditional style knife that I made. This is a stone called shirt. It's an antler handle. I used pine pitch glue and silk to wrap it. So everything here came from nature. And this kind of tool was the primary tool for most of human history. Stone tools. For the vast majority of human history, stone tools were the main tools. I'm fascinated by the process, by history, by anthropology. So it's stuff that I like to try and do myself. Hey, Watch Finds. Well, not really any really exciting stories from when I was an archaeologist. And I worked on a lot of sites in New England. And I found some pretty neat stuff, but to be honest with you, it's a pretty job. You spend a big part of your day taking notes, drawing simple maps, slowly digging into the ground, observing, taking graphs, taking measurements, and you can go days and even weeks without finding anything. It takes a lot of sort of fortitude, like inner strength, to keep doing it, even when you're finding nothing. It can be a really tough job when you're digging a place where there really isn't much. The nature of the stuff that I was doing was called contract archaeology. So that happens, let's say they're putting in a new highway, like a big part of the interstate highway somewhere in your area. A certain amount of money has to be set aside to test, to make sure that that highway isn't going to blow through some amazing archaeology site, like something the world has never seen before, really important. And so they hired companies like the one I worked for to check, to see if, is there anything, are there any archaeology sites where that, where that highway is going to go, or where that new bridge is going to be put in. And so we would check. And so, in a weird way, and a lot of times you don't want to find anything because, there's a project that's going to be built one way or the other somewhere. And if you find something, then they have to figure out what to do. A lot of times, if you find something, that's the first stage. The second stage will be to evaluate how significant is the information that may be there. Like, how important is the archaeology site? So, that's random. So they have to determine how important the site is. So that's sort of stage 2. If it's deemed to be important, then the people making the highway or whatever have to make a decision to either pay to have the site fully excavated by the archaeologists so that that information is captured before they plow through it. Or a lot of times they'll figure out move the road and they'll just go around. Of course, you got to test that area too. But so it's not like Indiana Jones stuff. It's sometimes you're looking in areas where there are no sites, and when you do find a site, that you approach it very incrementally to see how important it is, and sometimes that's those. And on occasion, if the site is really important and or they cannot go around it, then you sort of go excavation. And as I mentioned, it's very tedious. You know, if they determine, like, let's say they determine this is where the highway is going to go, and we've determined from initial excavation that it's important, it's good stuff. So then we map out where we're going to excavate, and then so you still don't know exactly what's in the ground. You know, like there's a site here, but you don't know, like, is all the stuff over there, or is it over there, or is it scattered all about? So when you excavate, you have to do it. You know it's going to be destroyed by the highway or whatever. And so you can spend weeks digging in a section that's, say, beyond the boundaries of where the artifacts are. You have to dig it. You have to make sure that there's nothing there. And if there's something there, you have to record it well. So you spend a lot of time finding nothing. And that can get really boring and frustrating, but it's part of the job. Oh, that was a very long way of saying I don't have any really exciting stories. We found some neat stuff, but it's pretty small scale. Preservation of artifacts in New England in the ground isn't very good. So a lot of what you might find has rotted away. That doesn't mean it's not there, and that there aren't some good sites, but it's not like some other places in the world. Yeah, you can't like in Europe, you can't like put in a sidewalk without uncovering like something or other, or some kind of Neolithic something, or an unexploded bomb from the war, or I mean, it's a different scene. So, I got a tough spot here. I'm gonna get a bigger tool. In New England, the Native American population, relatively speaking, was never huge. So there weren't like big impressive sites like you might find in the Southwest or the Southeast. So, what you find is maybe important and interesting, but definitely not large scale. More like small hunter-gatherer groups going about their traditional way of life. And you'd find things associated with that, little bits of pottery, stone tools, maybe some bone, maybe a hearth where a fire was. So that kind of thing. Have Native Americans gone through the same? Well, yeah, yes, sort of. But theirs was kind of interrupted by the emergence or the appearance of Europeans. So the first Native Americans came from northeast Asia, when there was an ice age, and all of the water got bound up in the polar caps in these giant glaciers, which caused the sea level. And so a bridge of land was created from Siberia to Alaska. And small groups, probably following large herds of animals, slowly came down that and populating North and then South America. And so their tools were stone. And they had types of tool cultures, different types of points, and for different uses. And based on different cultures, that ended up developing from the actual groups. Some groups went on to use native copper for tools. And then by that time, Europeans had started showing up, and trade happened almost immediately. And one of the to be traded were small blanks of iron or steel. And the Native Americans very quickly learned how to incorporate that into their tool assemblages. So they didn't really work through the like copper to bronze to iron to steel. It's like, you know, they were sort of on that, but then we showed up, and Europeans showed up, and that sort of got short-circuited. So they had very, very sophisticated tools of many different types, but they didn't really work through those grades the way that European history is typically taught. So I'm just working here where it's kind of fat. If we look at it from the side, we can see it's nice, it's thin up at the top and gets fatter at the bottom. That's typical, but this is too fat. Just sort of trying to bring it in line a little bit. Prepare the platform. Support it well. Figure out if you're going to hit. That was a good one. I'll show you what I did. Light's not great. Okay. So, you see this low spot right here? That was my target. That was platform. In this case, platform means the surface that you prepare in order to hit it, in order to make a nice thin long flake to come off the bottom side. So I hit it right there from the top. I'm going to flip it over to show you the flake that was made. If I can get my fingers out of the way at the same time. Right there. See the flake scar right here. There's the flake. It fits right back in there. Boop. Super, super sharp, my friends. So these were also tools. Hey, Ender Baby. Good to see you again. So every time a flake was knocked off a piece like this, if you needed a little knife, a little X-Acto blade, a little scalpel, something to cut meat or leather, this stuff is sharp. I mean, so this is the flake I just knocked off, right? I haven't done a thing to it. Nothing. Let me find a nice piece of leather here. This is a thick piece of cowhide. Right? Sharp. And I was kind of being a little gingerly because I was so in my face. Super, super sharp. So if you've got a decent sized chunk of rock with you, you could knock off, use your knife for however long you needed it. You might keep it for a little while, but these were so easy to get that it's likely after using it for an hour or something, you just say goodbye. So even though the people that practice are always trying to make, you know, big arrowheads or spearheads or stuff like that, a lot of the time, the main tool was just something like this. So it doesn't look like much, and it wasn't hard to make. There isn't much to practice, but we know that these were the main cutting tools. Even though something like the knife I showed you, I call this a knife, and it is, but it's really thick compared to this flake. You know, you can't even, it's so thin that these end up getting used more like a saw. I mean, if it's a real soft material, like you're removing a hide from an animal. You pull it up and you do this. Yeah, you're using it like a knife. But a lot of times you're sawing. You're kind of a sawing motion to cut through whatever the material is. But these hold up better than these tiny little flakes. So to work my way through a piece of wood, the flake, it will be very difficult. Whereas this, I'll do it for a little bit. I'd already done that a little bit, but you get the idea. You can see the sawdust on the teeth there. So very, very good for a lot of things, but maybe not used the way we think about using a knife now. Flakes would be more suitable for. All right, so that bottom is looking a little better. I could probably take a couple more little pieces off. I'll braid. Yeah, you know, you can make stone axes. So here's an axe that I started. And I flint knapped this out of chert. Sometimes they were used like this, and then sometimes it was taken a step further and they'd find a rough rock and grind it smooth. But what you'll see, compared to a metal axe, we'll look at the blade here. You see how chunky that is? It's not very sharp. It's really not very sharp compared to a metal axe, so that it remains strong. So it's a lot more blunt. So we go to use one of these. It's a different experience than when you use a modern metal axe. When you hit, it does not get in as deeply. A couple things that you might do to make life easier is first burn the material, the base of the tree or the center of the dugout canoe, whatever it is, and then take your axe to it. The other thing that they did a lot of the times, we work with dry wood. You know, we go to the lumber store and kiln dried. Well, most often they worked in the Stone Age, they worked with green wood. And so it's softer nature. And so even a fairly blunt axe will still make some progress in it compared to working, you know, kiln dried wood. So it required more effort, more time, maybe some additional techniques, but there have been many, many, many stone axes for a very long time. It can be done, but you just shouldn't expect it to perform like a steel axe. Okay. So we're going to do the bottom. A couple more hits. A smaller tool. A braid. Make sure I have braid. Yeah, Andrew Baby makes a good point too, that axes were used for chopping, used for the wedge that it is, rather than for used for splitting and chopping so much. Okay. Going to change the platform on this bottom by making some little taps. Then I'll braid it and flip it over. I don't know what I'm making. I have this nice flake and I started working on it. So, you know, maybe we'll get a blade out of it, or maybe a spear point. You know, I'm seeing if I can get it thin and not break it. And my goals are very modest. Okay. The views on Christmas Eve were insane. 10,000 people checked in. Thank you for stopping by, Ender Baby. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. I don't know how to explain it. There was... thank you, Robin. I've got some other pieces here. Here's a knife I made some time ago. Just a biface preform that I made a while back. This isn't done, but I think this is going to be a knife blade too. It's starting to get pretty thin. More work to do on that. Maybe I'll work on that later. But welcome. Yeah, I wasn't planning on working on this piece. I was to reduce a much larger piece and this came off. I was like, oh, that looks like a good start to something. So figured I'd work on it. Give you so I've been working on this edge. If you're not familiar, I'm hitting down on this side and that pops off flakes here. So I need to work on, this edge, flip it over, this edge. Very methodically, looking for any things that are gonna cause me trouble and try to get ahead of those things. So far, so good. Ooh, that was a good one. I wasn't able to keep the flake. Let's see. Where's my pen? But it starts here and comes all the way up to here and around. So it gets all the way to the middle piece. And that's helpful. If I can get flakes from this side to get to the middle or beyond, and I can get flakes from this side to the middle or beyond, that means I can effectively thin the piece. I can get it thin. If your flakes are too short, stop like right here or something, this thing's gonna have a big, fat middle section, right? So part of what we're doing is setting every hit up. So, well, at least at this stage, setting every hit up so the flakes carry and are nice and long so that I can thin it. Welcome back, Ender Baby. Plans. Okay, a couple little ones I can still take off from there. Oh boy, you are gone. Nice. Yeah, you let me. So Robin's asked, what do I do with the flakes that come off? Look at all those, and they're all sharp. Needless to say, I do not kneel down in here. So after a while, I'll collect all these up, and I'll dig a hole and I'll put a couple pennies that from this year, and I'll put the flakes and the pennies in the hole, and then I'll rebury it. And the pennies are so that no archaeologists from the future get the idea that they've come upon some sort of Native American site here in England. You know, it would be it would be big news to find so many flakes in one spot. So that's the usually the practice, because they are really sharp, hard to use for a lot of other things. You could, you know, if you were to build a house foundation or something, and where you put the gravel around the foundation, like there or something, but they're so sharp you wouldn't want to put them, like, you know, your walk or anywhere where people are going to be walking. They're just too sharp. I don't know why my stream's lagging today. It's the same setup as every day. I apologize. I normally go live around a little later. It's normally 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on, friends. I wish I did. I got my Ethernet set up, and I could stop and restart. I don't have a fixed schedule yet, Ender Baby. Maybe I need to come up with one, so that, you know, you folks know when to expect me. That would probably be helpful for you and lots of people. But I'm pretty new to this, so at present I haven't done that yet. But it's something I'll think about. The other thing I'm thinking about is a 2-camera setup, so that you could always see, like, over my shoulder. And so I can see exactly what I'm doing, and I don't have to constantly do this. What do you think? Should I stop and start this again? I don't know. I don't really have any alternative other things that I can do. Address the lagging. That's very cool, Robin. That's a very neat thing to know that you have ancient peoples who are living right there, and that the tools that they needed to survive are still there. After all that time. Oh, Robin, so you're okay? Huh. Well, that's interesting. So maybe it isn't me. It shouldn't be. I'm connected to an Ethernet cable. It should be fast. Yeah, definitely, the Goober, sorry. I used to work exclusively with traditional tools, antler billets, hammer stones, antler tips for pressure flaking. I enjoyed it. I developed some really bad tennis elbow from flintknapping, and I had to stop doing it because I was in so much pain. Eventually, I spoke to a friend of mine who's an expert, and he said, "Hey, I understand the impulse to do it the way that it's always been done, but if you want to get good, if you want to keep practicing, you might consider switching over to the modern tools most of the time. You know, if you're doing a demo in public or something, switch back to the antler tools and all that. But these do require a lot less force, and also they seem to absorb force. So my elbow has been just fine since I switched over to those. So that's, you know, it's not perfect. I'd rather be using the traditional tools, but I just discovered that if I do that, I won't be able to keep doing it. But yeah, I think you should get some and go for it. Or make some tools. You can make these too. I did not make these, but you can. You got questions? Well, hopefully I have answers. Lay on me. Is it how to make these? How to make copper boppers? Is that your question? I don't know how to answer that one. Is that a reference that I'm not getting? There are many references that I do not get. I get it from a variety of places. I order online. I don't have a lot of good sources locally. Some people do. I order from neolithics.com. I order from flintknappingstone.com, huntpriv.com, and gonapping.com. There are others. It's just, those are the ones where I've, you know how I pick? There are some of those, most of those places sell, let me grab a visual aid. Most of those places will sell you rock in one of the flat rate boxes, either a medium size or a large size. As you can imagine, a huge part of buying stone is the shipping cost. So if you can find a retailer that sells in those flat rate boxes, it's usually a better deal. So that's kind of how I often pick where I'm from. So for an abrader, you can use any kind of rough rock. Here's one of my sort of traditional abraders. Here's another one, but I've used this one so much, it's actually smooth now, so it's not a very good abrader. And then you can also use sections of abrasive grinding wheels. And that's what I've been using mostly these days. Oh, that's good of you, Ender Baby. So it sounds like you can ask some questions of Ender Baby too. Because Ender Baby has experience as well. Look at that. Look at that. Look at us forming community. What do you think of that, huh? I'm proud of us. Hey, you have experience, you're just not good at it. Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, I should have my typical disclaimer. I do not count myself as an expert at this. I call myself an advanced beginner. I've made progress, but oh boy, I'm a long way from where I want to be. So among other things, flint knapping is teaching me patience. And humility. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, if you live in an area, if you live anywhere close to natural sources that you can get, it's probably worth making a road trip of it and getting it that way. Because it really adds up to have good quality stuff shipped to your home. It's kind of crazy. I can afford it. I'm very lucky. And I'm just obsessed. So I do it. But, yeah. Oh yeah, Robin, there's a lot of material types. Many, many, many. Dacite and obsidian, chert, flint, jasper, some types of quartzite, chalcedony, some types of rhyolite, some type of basalt, like coralized agate, some types of petrified wood, glass, just normal glass. There's a lot of things that you can flint knap. And, you know, the indigenous cultures used what they had. And they would trade long distances for other stuff. I've seen ground slate tools, but never flint knapped slate. Maybe that's what you mean. I bet it is. I've made a few slate tools. I don't have any of them here. Okay. Progress. Let's see. This area is sort of was convex naturally, so I haven't really gotten into that. So the edges are they're a little too sharp for me to continue to take off long flakes. So what I may do is use a small bopper and just chip off a bunch of the edge to change the height of the platform and to make it more dull. Will give that edge strength when I go to hit it with a larger bopper. So you've always got to be prepared. So I'll just show you what that looks like. You've always got to be prepared for the piece to get, if you want thinner, it's pretty much going to get smaller. No. This is a flake I knocked off before I started today. Do you mean this knife, Fender baby? I've started a bunch recently. I think I did this pre-form a few days ago too. I don't know. I'm all over the place. Let's see. Do I want to take a little more? Yes. Yes, I do. Well, Goober, I like Dacite a lot. I also like Town Chert a lot. Novaculite's good if you can get it. A lot of people like this stuff because it's fairly inexpensive. This is called Keokuk Chert. It's kind of pink. This batch was very crumbly. So I was not in love with this. Here's some Novaculite here. This nice white stuff. That's Novaculite. Which they also make some knife honing stones out of. Oh, hey, Dog Soldier. Yeah, I hop around. The other day was I don't know which one you're talking about, but there was a very long, like a 3-hour session. So just to mix it up for myself and for other folks, I just sort of picked something else. And I think I've been doing pressure flaking for ages, so I switched over to percussion. And now they're just sitting here on my bench, and I don't remember what's what, honestly. I'm definitely at a stage where I'm like, really what I'm practicing is just getting things regular and thin. And I'm not super focused on like the end. I'm just sort of like working on my skills and trying not to break the piece. So, you know, things like I'll leave those for weeks or months and then maybe come back to it. I should turn this into something. But for the most part, I'm just happy to be practicing. Yeah, thinning. It's where it's at. But look what I remembered to bring. A whiteboard. So if I get into of certain things, I can do a quick drawing. Like when I'm talking about conchoidal fracture, and I use an example of a BB hitting a piece of glass, and what you get is a cone. You know, that kind of thing. And like when you create a platform, you want it below the center line. My drawing is really great. Okay, now it's below the center line, and I hit here to get a nice long flake this way. So I thought that would be a good thing to have. I get deep into something that I can't really explain with my hands or whatever. That makes perfect sense, Robin. I think this would work great for skinning. Yeah, and it's got it. Yeah, this back edge is doesn't need to be, but it's kind of swept back a little bit. You could choke up like this so you don't go too deep and go. I was hoping to process an animal this year with stone tool, but I didn't get one this year, so it'll have to wait. And I could even think about pressure flaking this thing. Let's see, maybe I'll do a little shearing. Actually, that edge is probably good. This one could be more blunt. Have you done any, worked on any sculpture, Dog Soldier? You still there? Worked on any of your sculptures lately? What do I like to make the most? Knives. I'm gonna make a spear point because I'll make a spear. I'll actually like make one. But knives are like something that you can actually use. Make good like gifts. People feel like you've you know, just given them something amazing if you give them one of those. I spent most of the fall making arrowheads and arrows. This style, it's a little hard to see there. This kind of the style that Ryan Gill of Hunt get a phone call. Thank you, Robin. There's a lot of practice. I've got a lot of terrible arrowheads around. Oh, I did bring a cool show and tell item. Have you heard of Otzi the Iceman? The wet mummy that they found in the Italian Alps back in the 90s? If not, look him up. Otzi. Otzi. Well, I decided to recreate his sheath and his knife. And so here it is. And yes, his knife was really small. It looks kind of ridiculous in my hand, but these are the dimensions of his knife. And it's all made with natural materials. His tip was broken off. So if I want to be authentic, I have to break this off. And then this is made with bark fiber that I reverse wrapped and then doubled and twined together. And I got a piece of buckskin, put it on your belt. It's a little bigger than his was, but it's a lot more secure. You know, if you're romping around outdoors, that knife is tucked away nice and safe, and you can use the little lanyard that's on the knife to pull it out. Making cordage is not hard, Goober, so you can learn that, or maybe I could do a live stream on that. It's, I mean, at least the basics of reverse wrap cordage, I should say, not hard. So, yeah, I should qualify that. But if you know how to make reverse wrap cordage, you learn to identify some of the plants that will work for it. You're well on your way to all you need to know to keep you busy for a long time. Certainly all you know for like a survival situation. So it's not tough. I kind of like that idea. Maybe we'll do a cordage live stream. But I thought a little show and tell would be cool. My Utsi knife and sheath. And so, you know, his knife, it was probably much better. But he had a retoucher on him. He had a tool, you know, not unlike this. Instead of a copper tip, it had a bone tip in it. And that's what he used to resharpen his knife. So his knife had probably been resharpened a whole bunch of times. And that's why it was as small as it is. But, I mean, if you find a nice big flake, you know, not what I'm working on today, or even smaller, you can recreate his knife mostly with just pressure flaking. So it's kind of a fun little project that allows you to, yeah, dog bane is great. Dog bane is really good. I use a lot of milkweed, basswood, inner bark, cedar bark works well. I forget what this is. It's really rough. This might be cedar bark. And sinew up here too. Oh yeah, so the way I can actually, there's a bit of a lumpy spot here, so I can actually resharpen my Utsi knife carefully. I'd rather not break it on camera. All right, let's see. So you need a pad, another pad, or one of these rubber pads, and the piece is held firmly against it. And then you pressure flaking tool. I'm going to use this copper. Is placed on the edge on a low spot. And then I'm going to push in and a little bit down, and it will push off a flake. Oh, I think it slipped off and I didn't make a flake. This is not the way I don't do this standing, so that's why I'm struggling a little bit there. Okay. Here. So here's a little tiny flake, and it came off from right there. So you do that along the whole edge, and you'll create a new surface that's sharp. And that's also how you do the final shaping of any of these things. Pressure flaking is, you know, an integral part of making these stone tools. And I'm almost at the stage on the piece I've been working on where I might switch to pressure flaking, but it's still. All right, see you in a minute there, Goober. All right, thank you all for joining. Let's see, I need the right size tool for this piece. good. Let's take some flakes off of there. All right, getting thinner. That's good. Yeah, you bet. It doesn't. It's arrow is has many steps, and it's some fussy work. It's way easier to get your arrow back. Even if it's damaged, a lot of times it's to get it back and fix it than to start all over again with another arrow. And especially if it's like a really good, for some reason, some of them fly better than others. I think it has to do with the spine, the stiffness of the arrow, but some of them just behave well and some of them are wild. And if it's one of your good arrows, yeah, you want it back. Get it up into the light. So I'm starting to get into that convex area that I didn't need to work with. Hey, Adele. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, the arrow shafts that's a lot of work. Finding the material, straightening it, shaping it, notching it. It is work. I will break out flaker here, the big one, for a while. Hey, Odren. Odren, are we on a schedule here? Okay, folks, I think I got to wrap it up pretty soon. I appreciate you you stopping in and spending time with me. I'll 5:30 sounds good, but I appreciate the time you spent and the questions you've had. Please check out my my channel. There's lots of these live streams that have been archived, so you can follow along with lots of these sessions, and I pretty much go over the fundamentals every time. It's the same thing every time. And I've also got a few long form videos. Check those out. Please comment and like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I'm trying to get my my channel up and running. you know, in earnest, you know, my YouTube channel really going. So the more you want to interact, the more you're helping me out. So I appreciate it. Oh, thank you for that, Odrin. But winding down here, just going to do a few pressure flakes, kind of leave it in a, I don't know, a nice looking return to it. For those who don't know, this is called an ishi stick. It's a type of pressure flaker that of the Yahi Indians used. So named after him. An excellent flint knapper. Just gives you a bit more leverage than the short one. Let me take a little bit off of here, give you another update. Thanks for the return, people. I really appreciate it. Good to see those familiar names and helping out the new people. I love it. I love it. Creating our own little community around something, you know, that we actually all share in our history. Doesn't matter where. At some point, far enough back, your ancestors were dependent on something just like this. All of us. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that awesome? Yeah, so this is a little pre-form. It's not a finished anything, but now it's this nice regular shape. Starting to get it thin. I can turn this into a knife or an arrowhead. Small spear point, I guess. Something like that. I should probably make some scrapers and stuff like that. Maybe an awl. Make some other stuff. Just so you get a feel for that. But once again, thank you, everybody. Please check out my channel. And please keep your eye out for more of these live feeds, which I tend to do in the evenings, Eastern time. Normally I'd be starting around now, maybe 5 or 6 Eastern time. Give you a close-up. Try and catch the light there. Start to see some of my pressure flake scars along here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I appreciate all the questions and the on each other and me. I love it. We're setting an example for the world. All right. I hope you all have an excellent day. And once again, I appreciate you spending some time. Doug North. And we'll see you again here soon. And until then, please go to Doug North on YouTube. DUGNORTH. That's my channel on YouTube. Check out some of the fun made friction fires, various kinds of primitive skills, ancestral skills, historical stuff. And I hope that entertaining, and I'd appreciate it a lot. Okay, take care.